For our conditional use, or building permits, they suggested you put a minimum time limit on it as well. 6 months, 9 months, something. Otherwise, somebody can get a building permit for something and stick it in their pocket and sell it with the land or something. So there should be some,
Wouldn't that would be more minimum than, excuse me, a maximum? I mean, it's good for this number of days. If
You have to start.
but it has to start
You have to start.
within 60 days, 90 days, or whatever it is. So
But then
that,
you need a completion date too.
mhm,
Minimum and a maximum.
Minimum.
You're creating a window.
mhm. Anyhow, that's what they suggested. Other than that, things are pretty quiet. Not much going on. Nobody's building anything about anything.
You put the road restriction, weight restrictions on.
Rhododendron.
You put those signs up, I see.
Back up to this conditional use,
Mhm.
going with the land. I think that really says then we need to get updated to get the interim use because,
Yeah,
you know, our discussion, Larry, about somebody that was going to create a business in, let's say, in a building at one time was an ag building, and you're gonna start a garage in that ag building. That seems to me that would be more of an interim use than a conditional use, because a building is temporary, whereas a quarry is more of a permanent thing that would be a conditional use.
yeah, well, I've had different opinions on that than all the board. I think if a person starts a business and they put their time and energy and they build a successful business, they should be able to sell that when they retire. But if we put an interim use, after a period of time, it's no longer,
There's nothing to prevent somebody coming back and reapplying.
yeah, but if
To
you.
continue the
But
interim.
if I was buying a property that said you might be able to keep this business, you might not, I'd sure pay a lot different than if I said, yeah, you can.
You buy the property contingent that you can get the conditional use
Right.
permit or
Interim
interim
use.
use.
Whatever, yeah, that's,
That's something we might want to think about before
Yep.
we have it come up specifically applying to something.
yeah, yeah, I'll tell you,
As we go through that, the book,
yeah.
it's easier to make.
The interim use is included in the revision.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll tell you an interesting one. What's his name? Miller on the way to Hoka there. What's the Miller place there? that
Miller's Corner.
Well,
No, the farm.
Fred, I think it is. He wants to build a garage, and he's got two different parcels, and my initial thought was, well, you gotta combine them, because otherwise, you build it on here, and you don't want to have the setback too close. He says, well, I own that, so I don't need to have the setback any further. But I made the case that, well, but then you sell this other parcel, and then you're non-compliant. But as we looked at it, half of his parcel is, he's got one parcel next to each other. One's in Boca Township, one's in the Crescent. And his house straddles that line.
I mean, so how, I'm just curious, how do you decide who has jurisdiction?
Well, if he wants to build on our land, then we do. If they want to build on the other, it's Boca does.
So if he wanted to combine the lots,
I can't imagine he can do that, because I suggested that to somebody, and they said it would be not doable, even if they're in different, because they were in different subdivisions. So you can't combine them. I can't imagine you can combine a lot in two different townships.
Before you issue anything, I think you have to have an up-to-date survey on that.
yeah,
You have to.
Yeah,
So you'd have to survey it, because that's too close to.
we can annex it.
anyhow, that was kind of interesting. I thought, I don't know where this is going, but yeah, I think he said it had, but that's a good point. I'll check on that. Good heads up. I appreciate that. Other than that, that's all I got.
Anything else for the good of the order tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a question before you adjourn, please? Now, Larry, you indicated you were gonna share with us, because I know that you talked last time we were here, you were gonna show the ordinance you were working on your computer, and you had problems with the screen, it was blue. And I believe you indicated you were gonna share that. You said before we adjourned this evening, you were gonna address that, and as well as finding out how we could find out more about that and listen. Also, you were gonna talk about the website, posting what you were working on the website. That was all discussed last month.
Yeah, and we did go through that at the supervisors meeting, and I showed them where we're at, and like I said, there are still some minor inconsistencies that they need to go through, like if, for example, if somebody starts building without a permit, the county has one fee amount and how many days, and, there's some inconsistencies like that we gotta go through, and they got these 3 ordinances that the supervisors are gonna look through. And I was anticipating presenting or making available the document that's the original document where we did the combining. But the recommendation or order, I don't know, recommendation I'll call it, from the supervisors was to not do that now. When we get it done, then we'll have both documents available and people can look at it.
How much time between that and the because I know that you talked about there'd be a hearing as well. How much time between when we get to see that, whenever the supervisors choose that?
I don't know, that'll be up to them. I would hope that it would be enough time, but people are anticipating looking at that original compare document, and it's gonna make your head spin. It's so unworkable, because it's got formatting discrepancies, and there is so much in it that it's really hard to follow.
Are we gonna have another work session with the?
Well, and that's my understanding, was that last month's supervisor meeting, I showed them what we had, and there's just some minor things that they gotta go through, like the fee for starting without a permit, and there's some, stuff like that they truly have to look at and consider. And then there's 3 ordinances that I'm saying we didn't have, but I'm recommending that we adopt them as they are, but that's their decision to make. So I sent them to them and say, read these over, let me know if you have these, and then we'll make a decision where we're gonna go forward. I think once we get that ordinance accepted, I think we'll be down to where we can get it in one meeting.
I mean, our recommendation has been made to include those 3 provisions. It's up to them to put it into the document that gets to the public hearing.
Okay, all right, I guess
We'll do that.
Hmm?
We'll do that.
Okay.
yeah. So then, once we get to that point, we'll get it down to where it's manageable, where it's just stuff that needs to be decided by the supervisors, or the planning commission supervisors together.
All we are is the worker bees in this process.
Sure. And so we might have several days, or several weeks, or a month or 2 to
Well,
look at the finished.
How long do you have to post the meeting?
Oh, yeah, that's only 10 days.
Yeah, so no less than 10 days.
To see the document before the hearing.
Right.
Yeah, but I would anticipate once we get it done, I've got a copy of the original one, but I would anticipate we would have that at the library, and one of the original one online, and the final one. And I suppose, I don't know if there's a standard on that, but like a lot of state stuff, they have a comment period.
Sure.
Where you can look at it and,
Is there anything off the top, I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Is there anything that we decided to be more restrictive than the county?
I think on the fine for starting without a permit.
Well,
One thing.
numerical dollar amounts, but
Yeah.
as far as structure, uses, things like that, no. I mean, so it's essentially gonna be the county document.
Sure.
Updated with numbers. I mean, the numbers were all they used different sets of numbers than we did, so
Yeah.
the statutes were out of date, the references, and that was in itself a monumental task, so that's what the changes that Larry was talking about.
Mr. Chair, so,
You state your name and address.
I'm just I'm
Yeah.
from the public, I'm not from the township.
We still need to know your address.
Bruce
I
Steele,
got it here.
1105 East Caledonia Street, Caledonia, Minnesota, 55921, since 1992.
All right.
So, you said you can be more restrictive.
We can be more restrictive, but
Okay,
not less
so
restrictive.
an example would be, rather than a 50-foot setback of a mine to the adjacent property, you could have a 100-foot setback. That would be more restrictive.
Theoretically.
Yep.
It would be more, it would be, it wouldn't
Yeah.
be theoretical at all. Okay.
But if they had a 50, we couldn't have a 25.
Correct, okay, just as long as we understand our
Sure.
matter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you gentlemen at all consider looking at banning frac sand mining in your township?
Absolutely not.
Good answer.
Absolutely not.
Has there been much discussion to the frac sand mining subject
None.
at all? None?
No, we're not talking about it.
Really? Is there any plan to put any frac sand?
No.
Larry, could I just ask a question,
Well,
considering,
here's the thing, Mr. Chips, I made a motion to adjourn sometime ago.
but where, this is, I'm
Yeah.
asking a question.
Actually, a motion to adjourn, if I chose to, is a non-debatable motion, so
Sure.
make your point and quickly.
Sure. For your understanding and for the public's understanding, one of the difficulties that you gentlemen may be well aware of is the county's had great difficulty. It's come to light, and there's a lot of evidence based on the exit of the former zoning administrator, that the county has some issues, and Larry could speak to this, in that they've had great difficulty in figuring out how to enforce the current ordinance. My question is twofold. One, Larry, does that present to either Larry, the zoning administrator, or to you, planning officials or the supervisors, difficulty in when the county has showed evidence that they've been unable or unwilling to enforce various parts of the zoning ordinance? Does that bring a special set of issues or problems to you as the township? In other words, as well as could then it be difficult for you then to enforce something that they haven't been enforcing? And how do you work that, Larry?
That's one, it's pretty hypothetical. One, their ability to enforce, that's their problem.
Sure.